Millionaire brings a homeless woman to his ex's wedding. Her revenge stuns everyone. Before we begin, comment below with the city you're watching from, and let's dive into a story you won't forget. The limousine was late. William Lancaster, in his tailored Armani suit, stood beneath the overhang of his office tower, tapping his wristwatch with a patience he didn't have. The summer rain had started, soft but steady, painting streaks on the polished concrete. He didn't like to wait. He didn't like to be reminded he wasn't in control. And yet that afternoon, something was about to happen that not even William, with all his millions, his power, his sharp instinct could have seen coming. Across the street, beneath a broken awning outside an abandoned bakery, a woman sat on the sidewalk with her knees drawn to her chest. She looked invisible to the crowd. People passed. No one looked down. But William did. Her violin case was open, empty. Rain had soaked the velvet lining. She wasn't playing anymore. Her fingers trembled too much. The instrument lay beside her, worn, cracked at the edge. Its bow held like a last breath. But it wasn't the violin that caught William's attention. It was her face. Familiar. Sharp cheekbones, even beneath the dirt. Eyes the color of dust gray. With something old and broken behind them. Something pulled at his memory. No, it couldn't be. His car pulled up, but he didn't move. Instead, he crossed the street. His leather shoes splashed through puddles, stopping right in front of her. She didn't look up. He crouched and whispered, "Isabella?" She froze. Rain dripped from the edge of her hood, and then slowly she lifted her head. Eyes locked. 10 years collapsed into that one glance. The girl he once knew, the girl who'd made the world feel less cruel in high school. Before she vanished, Shed was sitting on the street like a ghost. Thin, pale, silent. But it was her. She blinked once, then looked away. "You shouldn't have come," she muttered, voice hoarse. William stared at her, trying to find words, any words. "What happened to you?" She smiled, but not kindly. "The economy," she said, with a bitter laugh, "and a few wrong men." Silence stretched. "Come with me," he said finally. She scoffed. "Why? So I can ride in the back seat of your guilt." He ignored the jab. "There's a wedding I need to attend tomorrow," he said, voice low. "My ex is marrying the man she left me for. She sent me an invite. I want to show up as someone they'll never forget." Isabella raised an eyebrow. "And you picked the homeless girl with a violin and dirty shoes?" "No," he said, "I picked you." She studied him. The silence between them wasn't awkward. It was electric. "You think I'm a game piece?" Some twisted statement. "No," he repeated, calmer now. "I think you're someone the world forgot to apologize to." For a moment, her lips trembled, but she hardened again. "I don't want your pity." "It's not pity," William said. "It's a favor for both of us." He stood, reached into his coat pocket, held out his umbrella. "I'll wait in the car. If you're not there in 5 minutes, I'll drive away." He left her there, and she watched him go, his tall figure disappearing into the rain like a question mark. 5 minutes passed, then 7, then 10. William told the driver not to start the engine. She wasn't coming. Of course she wouldn't. He stared out the window, watching the blurred crowd through the wet glass. And then, a knock on the car door. He turned. She stood there, soaked, hair clinging to her cheeks, violin case slung across her back like a forgotten weapon. She didn't smile. She just said, "Let's go humiliate some ghosts." And just like that, the past stepped back into William's life, wearing a tattered coat and a stare that could burn down everything he thought he knew. The car was silent. Neither of them spoke. The rain tapped gently on the windows as the driver pulled away from the curb and slid into traffic. William leaned back, his hands clasped, watching Isabella from the corner of his eye. She hadn't taken off her coat. She held her violin like it was the only thing she still trusted. "Are you hungry?" he asked. "No." "You haven't eaten." I said no. He didn't argue. Instead, he reached for the panel and pressed a button. The divider between them and the driver rose quietly. "I know a place," he said, "just for a few minutes." She didn't answer, but she didn't protest either. 20 minutes later, They pulled up to a discreet entrance behind a luxury building. No name, no sign, just a private elevator. Isabella hesitated as the doorman greeted William with a nod. "What is this place?" she asked. "Somewhere they owe me a favor," he replied. The elevator doors slid open. Inside, soft lights and a faint scent of jasmine, the kind of silence that cost money. Two women in sleek uniforms were already waiting. William turned to Isabella. "I want you to meet Clara and Justine," he said. "They're the best at what they do." "Which is?" she asked, her tone flat. "Making people look exactly how they should have always looked." Clara stepped forward gently. "We're here for you," she said softly. "No pressure. But if you want to feel a little lighter, we can help." Isabella looked at them, then at William. "You think a makeover makes a woman matter?" "No," he said. "I think the world treats you better when you wear armor." Silence. Then Isabella whispered, "Fine. But I'm keeping the violin." The next 2 hours passed in a strange blur. William sat in the lounge with a whiskey in hand, watching the minutes crawl by. He wasn't nervous, not exactly, but there was something unfamiliar in his chest. A tightness, like something old was waking up. Across the hallway, Isabella sat in front of a mirror, her hair wet, her shoulders wrapped in a towel. Clara worked silently, brushing years of dust from strands that hadn't seen care in forever. "Why are you doing this?" Isabella asked softly. Clara paused. "For you." "No, I mean him. Why is he doing this?" Clara smiled gently. "Men like him don't always know why they do things. But when they do something like this, it usually means they're trying to rewrite a regret." Isabella closed her eyes. Her mother used to say, when someone offers kindness with no price, either run or heal. She didn't know which one this was. Back in the lounge, William looked up when he heard the soft click of heels. He stood slowly and forgot how to breathe. She was wearing a simple, elegant black dress that hugged her figure without showing too much. Her hair as a tangled mess fell in loose waves around her shoulders. Her face, though touched by makeup, didn't feel fake. It was her, the her he remembered. The one who used to walk through the school halls like she didn't need anyone. But it was her eyes that shook him most. Still cold, still guarded, but burning. "Well?" she asked. He swallowed. "You look, don't say beautiful." "I wasn't going to." "Good." She brushed past him and picked up her violin case. "I'm still me," she said. "I wouldn't want it any other way," he replied. She turned to him slowly. "Where's the wedding?" He smiled faintly. "Tomorrow afternoon, at the Langford estate." Her eyebrows lifted. "Classy." "She's nothing if not predictable." Isabella paused, then asked, "What exactly do you want from me there?" "Nothing fake," he said. "Just be with me. Make them wonder. Make them question everything they thought they knew. And what do I get in return?" He looked her in the eye. "Your power back." She nodded once. "Then I'll need shoes." That night, William had a guest suite prepared for her. She didn't say goodnight. She didn't thank him. She simply closed the door. He stood outside for a moment longer than he should have. Something about the way she looked at him like she knew things he didn't dare ask. Back in his room, William poured another drink, sat by the window. The rain had stopped, but in his chest, a storm was building. He remembered Olivia's laugh, fake one she used in front of cameras. The way she used to compare him to other men. The way she left him, not with honesty, but with a press release. He'd moved on, or so he thought. But when he saw Isabella again today, something cracked open. Not love, maybe, but something more dangerous. Memory, regret, and the question that haunted him, if he had noticed her back then when. They were teenagers. Would anything be different? Would she still have ended up on the street? Would he have done something? In the morning, he found her already awake, wearing a robe, sipping coffee in the sunlit kitchen. "Did you sleep?" "Barely," she said. "Too quiet, too clean." He smiled. "There's an old piano in the study. You can play if you want." "I don't play piano." "You look like you could." She looked at him over the rim of the cup. "Flattery doesn't suit you." "I wasn't trying." Silence again. Then she said, You still want to do this? Yes, even if it gets messy. He nodded. She stood. Then let's get messy. Tomorrow would be the wedding. But tonight, something deeper was already unfolding, not a plan for revenge, but a collision of two pasts. Finally daring to look each other in the eye. The Langford estate looked like it belonged in a movie. Columns like ivory giants, red carpet already slick with champagne footprints. Flashbulbs burst at the gates like fireflies trapped in daylight. It wasn't a wedding, it was a statement, and William Lancaster was about to make his own. The black car glided to a halt just outside the entrance. Dozens of heads turned. Paparazzi raised their cameras then paused. They were used to William arriving alone, cold, untouchable. But not today. The door opened, and she stepped out, heels first, then the black satin gown, then the woman they didn't recognize but couldn't stop staring at. Isabella didn't blink under the flashes, didn't flinch at the whispers. Her chin lifted like she belonged there. She didn't grab William's arm. She didn't need to. He offered it anyway, and for the first time, she took it. Inside, the ballroom bloomed with soft violins, glistening chandeliers, and too many smiles that didn't reach the eyes. William led her down the marble floor like a general returning to old battlegrounds. He spotted Olivia instantly. White dress, fake laugh, arm hooked into Charles Montrose's elbow like a trophy on display. When her gaze found William, her lips parted slightly. When it slid to Isabella, she froze. The smile faltered. Charles leaned in, whispered something. But Olivia wasn't listening anymore. Isabella met her stare. No smile, no smirk, just silence. And in that silence, Olivia panicked. The whispers spread quickly. Who is she? Is that Lancaster's date? Never seen her before, but that dress. Do you think she's an actress? Isabella ignored them. She walked like she wasn't hearing a thing. Because she wasn't. Not really. In her ears, all she could hear was the violin. The sound she used to chase when she was 16, playing in the school theater after hours. Back when she believed in things. Before Charles Montrose. Before the lies. Before everything crumbled. Her hand tightened around William's. He glanced at her. You okay? I'm not here to cry, she said. I didn't think you were. Good. They reached the front row of tables. William stopped, right in front of the bride and groom. Olivia, he said, voice polite, sharp. She blinked, regaining her rehearsed poise. William. What a surprise. He tilted his head. You invited me. Yes. But I thought. She looked at Isabella again. You might be busy. I was, he said. But then I realized this might be worth the time. Olivia turned to Isabella, smile tightening. And who are you, darling? Before William could speak, Isabella extended a hand. Isabella, she said, a friend of the groom. Charles flinched. Olivia's smile cracked, ever so slightly. Oh, how lovely. From where? Isabella smiled now, but it wasn't kind. From a time he probably wishes didn't exist. Charles dropped his champagne. It shattered. All eyes turned. The music didn't stop, but the mood did. Dead silent. Olivia glared at Charles. What is she talking about? But Charles had gone pale. William took a sip of wine, unconcerned. Isabella leaned forward, eyes on Olivia. You remember senior year, she whispered. Olivia's expression changed, from curiosity to realization. You? Yes, Isabella said. Me. The silence cracked like glass. Olivia grabbed Charles's arm. You told me she left town, that she was unstable. Shush, was Charles stammered. No, William cut in. She was forced out, after you spread a rumor that destroyed her. Isabella didn't blink. I lost everything, she said, voice calm. My scholarship, my reputation, my home. Charles stepped back. I didn't. Say another lie, Isabella said, stepping forward. And I swear I'll play every voicemail you ever left me. Gasps. Olivia's hand dropped from Charles's. You kept them, she whispered. Isabella nodded. All of them. The MC cleared his throat awkwardly. But the room wasn't listening to him anymore. The bride's face was thunder. The groom's face was guilt. And the woman in black, she stood taller than all of them. William leaned in, voice low. "You don't have to stay." "I want to," she said. "Why?" She turned to him, her voice barely above a whisper. "Because for once in my life I'm not running." He nodded, and in that moment, William saw her not as a prop, not as revenge, but as someone who had just taken her power back, without apology. Later, as the couple tried to salvage the ceremony, William and Isabella slipped away into the rose garden behind the estate. The music faded behind them, but the echoes of everything that happened still rang in the air. "Thank you," she said, after a long pause. "For what?" "For giving me the stage." "I didn't," he said. "You took it." She smiled for the first time. Soft real. "What now?" she asked. William looked at her, at the moonlight on her face. "I don't know," he said. "But I don't want to go back to pretending I never saw you." She studied him. "You mean this wasn't just a deal?" "No," he said. "It started as one, but somewhere along the way it stopped feeling like it." She looked away, silent. Then, "I don't believe in fairy tales," she said. "Neither do I, but I believe in second chances." He took her hand, and this time, she didn't pull away. The revenge was done, but something else had begun, something quieter, slower, and far more dangerous. The kind of feeling that doesn't ask for permission, only space to grow. The Langford estate was quieter now. Guests had begun to drift toward the valet, murmuring excuses about early flights and meetings they suddenly remembered. The air reeked of ruined roses and tension-not perfume. Back inside the ballroom, Olivia stood perfectly still. The wedding cake remained untouched. The photographer had quietly packed up, and Charles had vanished. She held a champagne flute in one hand, though she hadn't sipped. Her fingers trembled slightly. She didn't want to admit it, but her world-flawless curetet had cracked. The woman in black, Isabella, she wasn't supposed to exist anymore. Not after what Olivia and Charles did. But she came back, and worse, she had turned the moment into a stage. The whispers would grow like wildfire. "Did you hear what she said? Was it true? Charles was involved with her before?" She looked like she belonged more than the bride. Olivia could already feel her name unraveling, one cruel sentence at a time. She turned sharply toward the doorway, her heels echoing through the now hollow ballroom. She needed to find Charles. Meanwhile, in the back seat of the limo, Isabella sat in silence. William hadn't said much since they left the garden. She stared out the window, her hands folded neatly in her lap. The adrenaline had worn off. Now came the aftershocks. "Do you regret it?" he finally asked. "No, but..." She turned to him. "I didn't think it would be that easy." He raised an eyebrow. "You call that easy?" "I mean, walking into a place like that, speaking like that." She paused. "I used to think I'd freeze, or cry, or run." "You didn't." "No, I didn't." William studied her, the way she was still holding herself upright, composite, but there was a tightness in her jaw that betrayed the storm inside. "You want to go home?" he asked. She smiled faintly. "I don't have one." He didn't respond right away. Then stay." She looked at him sharply. "In your house?" "Why not?" "I don't belong in your world, William." "Maybe," he said. "But you belonged in that room more than half the people born into it." Her eyes softened, but she still shook her head. "It's not that simple." "Why not?" She hesitated. "Because if I stay, it stops being about revenge." He leaned in slightly. "Maybe it should." That night, the house was quiet. Isabella sat by the fireplace, barefoot now, her hair tied up, a cup of tea resting between her palms. Mrs. Langford Williams' longtime housekeeper had brought her a tray of fruit and warm bread without a word. William watched from the other end of the room. There was something surreal about the moment. Just 24 hours ago, Isabella had been playing a violin on the sidewalk. Now she was sitting in his living room, wearing silence like silk. He approached carefully. "Do you play?" she asked, nodding toward the piano. "Badly," he said. She smiled. "Then play." He chuckled. "I thought you didn't believe in fairy tales." "I don't, but I like irony." He sat at the bench, pressed a few hesitant keys. The melody was broken, uneven, but soft. He didn't look at her, just played. And she closed her eyes, not because the music was good, but because someone was trying for her. Elsewhere that same night, Olivia slammed her penthouse door. Charles followed behind, flustered. "Don't walk away from me," he shouted. She turned. "I should have listened to my instincts." "She's lying," he said. She made it sound worse than it was. "She had recordings, Charles." He went pale. "She said she would play them," Olivia continued. "But she didn't. Do you know why?" He didn't answer. "Because she didn't need to," she hissed. Her presence was enough to ruin everything. Charles sat down, burying his head in his hands. Olivia paced. "She humiliated me. In front of my family, my guests, my board members." Silence. "Do you still have feelings for her?" she asked quietly. His head snapped up. "No. God, no." She stepped closer. "Then you better find a way to fix this, or your career, your inheritance. Everything we built goes down with you." Charles nodded slowly, but in the dark of his eyes, a new fire was lighting. The next morning, William entered the kitchen to find Isabella already awake. Wearing one of Mrs. Langford's borrowed robes, she was flipping through an old book, her bare feet tucked beneath her on the chair. "Morning," he said. "Is this coffee strong?" "Only way I drink it." She raised her mug like a silent toast. He sat across from her. There was a quiet comfort in the air, like something heavy had lifted. "Today," he said, "I have to go to the office." "I figured, but I'd like you to stay." She paused. "I'm not your charity case, William. I know that, and I'm not your responsibility." "I don't want you to be," he said, "but I don't want you to leave either." Her expression softened. "You're dangerous when you're honest." He smirked. "So are you." She leaned back. "Then I'll stay. One more day. One day at a time." But not far away, someone else had started planning something, and for Isabella, the hardest part wasn't over yet. Because when you finally reclaim your voice, the people who silenced you never stay quiet for long. The morning passed quietly. Isabella didn't ask about William's schedule, and he didn't offer it. She spent most of the day in the sunroom, surrounded by potted orchids and a sleepy gray cat that refused to leave her side. She read, or tried to, but her thoughts wandered. This wasn't supposed to last. She was supposed to show up, say her piece, burn it all down and disappear. Instead, she was still here, wrapped in silence and warmth and something dangerously close to peace. Until the doorbell rang. Mrs. Langford peeked into the sunroom. "Miss," she said carefully, "there's a woman at the gate, says her name is Camilla." Isabella frowned. "Camilla?" "She says she knows Mr. Lancaster." William didn't usually rush home in the middle of the day. But when Mrs. Langford called and whispered, "She's here," the ex, he told his assistant to cancel everything and drove back without a second thought. Camilla. The name was a ghost, a lesson, and one he never wanted crossing paths with Isabella. She was standing in the foyer when he entered, tall, blonde, impeccably dressed in beige silk, her heels clicking like punctuation marks on the marble floor. Camilla turned as he walked in. "William," she purred, "you've been hiding." "Not hiding," he said, "just choosing who I let in." She smiled, thin, sharp. "And who's the girl?" He didn't answer right away. Isabella stood in the background, watching silently. Camilla noticed and turned, her eyes scanning Isabella slowly, from her borrowed slippers to her steady gaze. "You look familiar," she said, voice like velvet and venom. "Do we know each other?" "No," Isabella replied, "but you look familiar too, like the kind of woman who talks louder when she's afraid." Camilla's smile faltered. William stepped between them. "What do you want, Camilla?" She crossed her arms, ignoring the question. "I heard about the wedding, the performance." Her eyes darted toward Isabella. "Quite the show, I must say." Isabella didn't flinch. Camilla turned back to William. "I came because I was curious. You don't do things unless there's a reason. So what is she? Your new project? Or just your latest rebellion?" William's voice turned cold. She's not yours to define. For a moment, Camilla said nothing. Then she laughed. I see. The billionaire with a savior complex. Again. He took a step closer. You don't get to waltz in here and start dissecting my life. Not anymore. You brought me here once, she said, softer now. And you threw me out just as easily. Because you were never really in, he replied. Isabella turned and walked out of the room, not because she was upset, but because she had no interest in listening to the rich destroy each other with polite words. She went upstairs, into the guest room, closed the door, let the silence settle. But it didn't last long. A few minutes later, William knocked. May I come in? She didn't say yes, but she didn't say no. He entered quietly. She's gone, he said. I didn't ask. I wanted you to know. She looked at him. Something behind her eyes had changed. Darker, not jealousy, but distance. I'm not angry, she said. I didn't say you were. But I need to be clear. Okay, I'm not here to compete. I won't fight for a space in your life. If there are pieces of you still tied to women like her, I'll leave. He exhaled. Camilla is my past. The door's been closed a long time. She looked away. People like her don't knock on locked doors. They kick them open. I won't let her. Silence. Then she said, You don't owe me anything, William. I know, but I need to know if I'm building something real, or just living in the ashes of someone else's fire. He stepped closer. You're not ashes. Her voice cracked, just slightly. Then prove it. Later that night, he knocked again. This time, she was in the library, reading. He held something in his hand. She looked up. What's that? He held out a small folder. She took it, opened, and set of photos. Old ones. From high school. One of her in a theater costume. Another her playing violin in the school assembly. Another her laughing with a group of girls she no longer remembered. She stared. How did you get these? I never threw them away, he said. I didn't think you noticed me back then. I did, he said. Too much, maybe. She blinked fast. But you never spoke to me. I was afraid. She smiled bitterly. You afraid? He nodded. I didn't want to get close to someone who made me feel real. Why? Because back then being real hurt. She closed the folder. I don't know what we are, William. Me neither. But it doesn't feel fake anymore. He reached for her hand. Then let's not run from it. She didn't answer. But she didn't let go. Sometimes, healing doesn't arrive with music or grand gestures. Sometimes, it arrives in the quiet, and the choice to stay, even when leaving feels safer. It started with a feeling. That invisible pressure on the back of her neck. Isabella didn't say anything at first. She told herself it was just her mind still wired for danger, still bracing for cold floors and empty streets. But the second morning it happened, she paused halfway down the steps and turned. No one. Still, something inside her whispered, not alone. She shook it off. William was in the study, buried in contracts and investor calls. He offered her the entire East Wing to herself. But she rarely left the kitchen, the library, or the garden. She didn't need luxury. She needed peace, and peace was fragile. By the third day, the feeling returned, stronger. She stood at the back garden gate, watering lavender, when she noticed the footprints in the soft dirt near the fence. Too large to be Mrs. Langford, too fresh to be old. That night, she brought it up. I think someone's watching the house, she said, her voice calm but tight. William looked up from his desk. Why do you say that? I've seen footprints, glimpses through the garden hedges. They don't feel random. He closed the file in front of him. You think it's Charles? She shrugged. Or Olivia. Or someone else who doesn't like that I didn't stay broken. William stood. I'll call security. Have cameras added. You'll be safe. I don't want to be a prisoner behind walls. You're not. Then don't treat me like one. He nodded. Then I'll treat you like a partner. She met his eyes, and for a moment, the storm inside her quieted. But just before dawn the next day, she was proven right. The motion detectors went off. William's phone buzzed. Then the landline. Then Mrs. Langford's urgent knock on the bedroom door. He rushed downstairs. Two guards had already secured the perimeter. A man had tried to scale the west fence, fled before capture, left behind a torn sleeve and muddy tracks. But it wasn't a thief. He didn't try to get into the house, just to see inside. Isabella stared at the footage on the monitor. The silhouette was fuzzy, grainy, but her breath caught. It wasn't Charles. It was someone she hadn't seen in years. Someone who had no reason to find her. And yet, "Do you recognize him?" William asked. She hesitated, then nodded. "I think I do." His name was Marco, a name from another life. Back when she had nowhere to go but shelters and dark corners of the city, Marco had been kind once. Offered food, a place to crash, a coat when the snow started falling. But kindness always came with cost. He never hit her, but control doesn't need fists to hurt. He liked knowing she had no one else. And when she finally disappeared, when she left the broken apartment and chose the street instead, she thought she'd never see him again. Until now. William didn't ask for details. He just said, "Do you want me to find him?" And Isabella whispered, "No, he's not the enemy. Just a shadow I didn't shut the door on." Still, the security doubled, and she didn't protest. But she stopped going into the garden alone. A week passed. Isabella didn't leave the house. Not because she couldn't, because she was afraid of what might follow her if she did. William tried to distract her new books, music, offers to take her to the coast. But she was quiet again, withdrawn. Until one night, she approached him in the study. "I need to go somewhere," she said. "Where?" She hesitated. Then, "Where you found me." They drove out just before sunset, back to the alleyway near the old bakery. The awning still broken, the sidewalk still cracked. But someone else was sitting there now, a young girl with a guitar, eyes wide and tired. Isabella stepped out of the car alone, approached the girl, knelt down, and without a word, slipped a folded $100 bill into the case. The girl looked up, startled. "Why?" Isabella smiled softly. "Because someone once watched me disappear here, and I want you to know someone sees you." The girl blinked, then whispered, "Thank you." When Isabella returned to the car, her hands were shaking. William didn't say anything, but as he drove, she looked out the window and said quietly, "I don't want to be a memory. You're not. I don't want to be someone's mistake or someone's symbol. You're not. I want to be real." He reached over and took her hand. "You are." She squeezed back, and this time, it was her who didn't let go. Sometimes the past doesn't knock. It waits outside, in the cold, until you're strong enough to face it, and when you do, you stop being hunted. You start becoming whole. They didn't see it coming. Not the headline, not the picture, not the avalanche that followed. It dropped on a Monday morning. William was in a board meeting when his assistant burst through the door, tablet in hand, face pale. "Sir, you need to see this." He swiped and froze. Billionaire William Lancaster's new flame revealed, from sidewalks to silk sheets. Below the title, a grainy photo. Isabella, stepping out of William's car, hair in the wind, violin case on her back. A tabloid shot, taken from across the street, long lens, no permission, no truth, but enough to ignite a firestorm. She found out the same way, alone in the library, the morning paper still warm from delivery. Front page, top fold, her picture cropped, exposed, and slapped beneath a headline she didn't choose. She stared at it for a full minute, then folded it quietly, placed it on the table, and walked to the window. Outside, the sun was rising like nothing had changed. But everything had. William rushed home before noon, found her sitting on the steps of the back terrace, barefoot, a mug of untouched tea beside her. She didn't turn when he approached. "You saw it," she said. "Yes. I didn't know they were watching." "Neither did I." She laughed, soft, bitter. "I guess you were right. The world does treat you differently depending on the armor you wear." He sat beside her. "I'll call the legal team. We'll get it taken down." She shook her head. "It's too late. They had no right. They had a camera. That's all they needed." Silence. Then she whispered, "They don't care who I really am, just how shocking I look next to you." He looked at her, but she wasn't finished. I knew this would happen eventually. I just didn't think it would hurt this much. He touched her hand. Don't disappear on me. I'm not afraid of disappearing, she said. I'm afraid of becoming something you have to explain. By afternoon, the news spread like smoke. Social media ran wild. Some defended her, calling her a survivor, a story of strength. But others tore her apart. The comments were cruel. Assumptions, lies. Some even called her a con artist, an opportunist. From street rat to billionaire's bed, one tweet read. Isabella turned off her phone and went silent. That night, William tried to talk, but she locked the guest room door. He sat outside for an hour, just listening. And when she finally opened it long after midnight, her eyes were red, but her spine was steel. I'm not running, she said. I'm glad, but I need you to understand something. Anything? She stepped closer. I lived yours being invisible, then came back from the edge just to be called a lie. You're not, but they don't care. He reached for her hand. They will. No, she said, but you do. And right now that's enough. Over the next few days, the noise grew louder. Talk shows invited guests to discuss the scandal. Podcasts speculated about her past. An old shelter released a vague statement confirming she'd once stayed there. It was meant to be neutral, but it painted her as broken, needy, and receptive. William's team offered PR strategies, damage control, interviews. She refused them all. I won't explain myself to strangers. You don't have to, he said. But if you ever want to tell your story, I'll make sure they listen for the right reasons. She stared at him, and for the first time in days, something flickered in her eyes. Hope. Then came the knock. Mrs. Langford opened the door, and there, in the foyer, stood a girl no older than 16. Torn hoodie, shaking hands, eyes rimmed in smudged eyeliner. I'm looking for Isabella, she said. Mrs. Langford hesitated. William heard the exchange from the hallway and stepped forward. And you are? The girl looked up. My name's Ellie, she said. She's my sister. Some stories don't end with revenge. They begin with truth. And when the truth knocks unexpected, trembling, it doesn't just change the story, it rewrites everything. The hallway stood still. William, frozen near the staircase. Mrs. Langford holding the door as if afraid to close it. And Eliathan, pale, clutching the strap of a dirty backpack like it was the only thing keeping her upright. I'm her sister, she repeated, voice cracking. William studied her face, and for a moment he saw it. The same eyes. Not hardened like Isabella's, not yet, but close. Isabella came down the stairs slowly, barefoot, her hair still damp from a shower she hadn't expected to be interrupted. When she saw Ellie, she stopped, 3 steps from the bottom. Her breath caught. The teacup in her hand slipped, shattered on the tile. Ellie, she whispered. The girl didn't move. I didn't know where else to go, Ellie said. I kept searching. I saw the photos, I thought maybe. Isabella crossed the room in seconds, pulled her into her arms. Ellie tensed, then collapsed into her, and for a while they just stood there. 2 sisters, one broken by silence, the other by the noise. Later, in the guest room, Ellie sat wrapped in a blanket, her hands around a mug of cocoa she hadn't touched. Isabella sat across from her, quiet. William stayed near the door, ready to step out. But Isabella didn't ask him to leave. Not this time. Tell me, she said softly. Ellie's lips trembled. I thought you were dead. I thought you hated me. I didn't, Ellie whispered. I just didn't understand why you left. Isabella looked down. It wasn't safe. You should have told me. I was 17. You were a child. I still needed you. The words landed like a punch. Isabella closed her eyes. I know. Ellie explained slowly. Their mother had fallen deeper into addiction after Isabella left. The house was foreclosed. Child Protective Services intervened. Ellie bounced through foster homes, some okay, most not. She'd aged out at 16, been on her own ever since. When I saw the articles, Ellie said, voice low, I saw your name, and I thought maybe it's not too late. Isabella took her hand. It's never too late. William offered to find Ellie a place of her own, school options, therapists, but Isabella shook her head. She stays here. Are you sure? Yes. He didn't argue, just nodded, and left the room quietly. That night, Isabella found William in the library. He was reading, or pretending to. She stood in the doorway for a long time before speaking. You don't have to stay in this, she said. He looked up. What do you mean? This mess, my past, my family. It's not a mess. It's chaos. He smiled gently. Then I guess I've developed a taste for chaos. She stepped closer. This isn't what you signed up for. I didn't sign anything, he said. I just stayed. She didn't speak, so he did. Everyone has it before, Isabella. Yours doesn't scare me. She sat beside him, and this time, when she leaned her head against his shoulder, he let his book fall closed and wrapped his arm around her, but not far away. Charles Montrose was watching a different screen. His lawyer had called, sent him the new headlines, the one about Ellie, about the sister of the scandal woman, and something in Charles's mind clicked. 2 girls, 1 story, and 1 dangerous truth still hidden. He leaned back in his chair, lit a cigarette, and smiled coldly. If she thought the wedding was revenge, he muttered, she hasn't seen anything yet. Some ghosts return through headlines, others knock on your door. But the most dangerous ones are the secrets buried so deep, even you forgot how much they hurt, until someone else digs them up. It started with a knock, not at the front door, at the back gate, where deliveries came, where reporters didn't know to look. Mrs. Langford answered first, found a small envelope taped to the gatepost. No stamp, just 1 word on the front. Isabella? Inside was a photo, old, slightly torn. 2 girls, Isabella and Ellie. Younger, barefoot on a porch step. Behind them, a man, not their father, but someone else. His arms slung tightly around Ellie, his face hidden in shadow. On the back of the photo, a handwritten message. You left her once. Don't do it again. William held the picture like it might burn. Isabella's hands trembled as she stared at it, and Lysalant at first backed away the moment she saw it. Isabella turned to her. Who is he? Ellie's voice was barely a whisper. Victor. Victor who? Mom's boyfriend. After you left. Isabella's face paled. You never told me. You never asked. Ellie snapped and then instantly regretted it. Tears welled. He wasn't there long, but he did enough damage. William watched the storm unfold, hands clenched. I want names, he said quietly. Where he is. Who else knows? Ellie shook her head. You don't need to. Yes, Isabella interrupted. He does. Charles Montrose sat in a dim bar in East Village, swirling whiskey and watching an old video on his phone. A recording? A shelters and take interview from 5 years ago. Ellie's 16. Hair longer, voice shaking. He touched me when Mom passed out. I didn't know how to tell anyone. He paused the clip, leaned back. Gold, he whispered. Across from him, a woman in oversized sunglasses raised an eyebrow. You're really going to weaponize a child's trauma. Charles smiled. I'm not making anything up. I'm just reminding the world that broken people don't belong on pedestals. She rolled her eyes. Or maybe you just can't handle that William chose someone who doesn't care about your world. He didn't respond, just finished the drink and stood. I'm done being the one who got left behind. Back at the estate, Isabella paced the garden path, barefoot again, eyes burning with memory. I should have stayed, she said aloud. William followed a step behind. You did what you had to do to survive. She needed me, and I disappeared. She doesn't blame you. She should. She stopped, faced him. There's a whole part of her story I never knew, because I was too busy running from mine. He stepped closer. You don't get to rewrite what happened, but you do get to choose what happens next. She looked at him, eyes full. What if I ruin it again? Then I'll be there when it happens. She stared, and for the first time, the words slipped out. Quiet, draw. I'm scared. He reached out, touched her face. So, am I? That evening, a story broke online. A tabloid leak. The sister's secret. What Isabella didn't want you to know. It hinted at abuse, foster failures, left just vague enough to imply Isabella had known. The internet turned cruel again. Comments exploded. and Isabella shut down. Ellie didn't cry. Not this time. She stormed into the library, holding the printed article, her fist shaking. I thought it was over. It's not, William said, because they think they found your weakness. I'm not weak. I know. Then let's fight. He looked at her. You want to go public? No, Isabella said, stepping into the room. We do it our way. She held up the same photo from the envelope, but not with rumors, with truth. That night, William called in favors. Journalists he trusted, one-on-one, off the record. They didn't spin the narrative. They listened. And when Isabella spoke clear, steady, no victimhood, something shifted. Not just in the press, in her. By morning, the first article dropped. Headline: She didn't vanish. She survived. Inside, her story, her silence, her choice to protect a sister instead of selling a sob story. And the final quote: I don't want to be anyone's headline. I want to be someone's future. William found her at the piano, playing softly. Not perfect, but honest. He leaned against the doorway. Do you still want to leave? She didn't turn. I don't know where I'd go. He crossed the room, sat beside her. Then stay. She turned, finally. You're not asking for a few days anymore. No, I don't fit in this world, William. Then we'll build one where you do. Her fingers still on the keys, and she whispered, okay, revenge is loud, but healing. It's quiet, a room, a choice, a second chance. And for Isabella, it had just begun. It didn't happen with noise. No shouts, no chaos, just a quiet email, buried in William's inbox. Subject line: urgent, financial review request. At first glance, it looked routine, assuming his CFO might forward. But William had seen enough corporate warfare to know a planted landmine when it ticked. Inside was a PDF file, a summary of shell companies, tied to his name, false offshore accounts, whispers of embezzlement, fabricated, but dangerous enough to draw blood. And at the bottom of the email, one line: next time, pick a woman who doesn't carry shadows. He read it 3 times, then forwarded it to legal, then poured a drink scotch, neat. He hadn't touched alcohol in months, but tonight his hands weren't steady. Isabella found him on the balcony, suit jacket off, shirt sleeves rolled, drink in one hand, eyes on nothing. You never drink alone, she said. He didn't respond, just handed her the glass. She took it, sat beside him, and waited. Finally, he said, they're coming after me now. She tensed. Who? Charles. You're sure? Yes. He's scared. No. He's angry. She exhaled slowly. What did he send? He told her, showed her the message. She went silent for a long time, then whispered, this is my fault. No, he said, but she shook her head. It is. He never cared enough to attack you until I mattered to you. He reached for her hand. I'd rather face 10 of him than live without you. She looked at him then, really looked, not the man in suits or press photos, but the one who had waited for her silence to thaw, the one who offered a room, then safety, then something more dangerous, a future. She whispered, I can fix this. He frowned. How? I know Charles. I know what he fears most. He tilted his head. Public exposure. No, she said. Public irrelevance. The next morning, Isabella called someone she hadn't spoken to in years. Her name was Ray, a podcast producer. Loud, unfiltered, respected in underground journalism. They had once shared a bathroom stall during a protest in D.C. Now they shared a mission. I'll do it, Ray said. But I'm not pulling punches. Don't, Isabella replied. Just give me the mic. Within 48 hours, the interview dropped. Title: The Billionaire's Flame. What They Got Wrong About Me. Isabella didn't cry, didn't shout. She told her story, every twist, every scar, every silence. But then she turned the spotlight. I'm not the only one who came from nothing, she said. But I'm one of the few who got a second chance. And someone tried to weaponize that, not for truth, for ego. Then she named him. Full name, date of the fake financial packet, And the line he wrote about her shadows, it wasn't just brave, it was surgical. And Charles bled. By evening, Lancaster holding stock dipped briefly but then rebounded after William held a press conference of his own. Short, simple. I stand by her. And then he left the podium, hand in hers. But the night wasn't over, because shadows don't die easily. They wait. And as Isabella walked out of the elevator into the apartment lobby, she froze. A man stood near the concierge desk. Not security, not paparazzi. Too still, too quiet. He turned, and she recognized him. Marco, not older, just duller. Eyes like ice left out too long. Long time, he said. Her breath caught. What do you want? I want to talk. You shouldn't be here. He stepped closer. I didn't come for money or threats. Then what? I came to say you made it. She didn't respond. He nodded toward the doorman. I'm leaving. But you should know people like him. He gestured upstairs. They don't stay. Isabella didn't blink. Then maybe he's not like people. Marco smirked. Good luck. And he walked away. That night, she told William everything. No edits. No soft edges. About Marco. The shelter. The shame. And he didn't flinch. He just said, you survived. That's not weakness. That's warriorship. And for the first time, she cried. Not from fear. Not from regret. But because someone had finally seen all of Heron stayed. Some wars aren't fought with weapons. They're fought with truths. And when you find someone who holds you steady while you bleed, you don't let go. The invitation came embossed in gold. One of those events where the champagne poured like water and smiles stretched like masks. William didn't usually attend. But this year, it was different. Because this year, he wasn't going alone. The Langford car pulled up to the Venetian Grand Hotel just past 7. Flashbulbs sparked instantly. Isabella didn't flinch. She stepped out in a midnight blue gown, minimal makeup. No diamonds, just the rare kind of presents money couldn't buy. William followed, tux crisp, eyes locked on hers like she was the only person in the room. Because to him she was. Inside, the ballroom pulsed with string quartets and whispered gossip. Every table was a chessboard, every dress a statement, every handshake a deal. And at the center of it all, Olivia. Yes, that Olivia. Back from the pier graveyard. New man, new smile, same eyes. When she spotted William, her expression didn't change. But when she saw Isabella, her jaw tightened, only for a second. But it was enough. They made their rounds. Isabella moved like she belonged. Because truthfully, she didn't care if she didn't. She laughed when she wanted, spoke when she had something to say, and let silence do the rest. But the whispers came anyway. That's her, the one from the wedding. She used to be homeless, right? Rumor is she exposed Charles Montrose. She ignored them until she saw her. A woman in red, late 40s, hair pulled tight, eyes calculating. Her name was Helen Rothschild, socialite, board chair, queenmaker, and Olivia's godmother. She approached with the grace of a wolf. Well, Helen said. I must say I didn't believe the stories. Isabella sipped her drink. Which ones? Helen smiled coldly. All of them. William moved to intervene, but Isabella touched his arm lightly. I'm curious, she said to Helen. What's your favorite one? Helen tilted her head. The one where you fooled everyone, including him. Silence. Then Isabella smiled. That one's not true, she said. But I do like the one where I walk into a room full of people who underestimated me and leave with my head higher than any of them. Helen blinked once, then turned and walked away. William stared at Isabella. You didn't flinch. Didn't need to. You're braver than I thought. No, she said, just on being scared. Later, as the auction began and guests turned to champagne flutes and paddle numbers, William pulled Isabella aside. They stepped onto the balcony, away from cameras and critics. The city stretched below them, lights like broken stars. I'm proud of you, he said. She turned. I didn't come here to impress anyone. I know, but I'm glad you're here. He reached into his jacket, pulled something out. Not a ring, not yet. A small velvet pouch. and sitting an old violin charm on a gold chain. He said, "I found it in the box you left behind at the safe house." Her eyes filled instantly. "I thought it was gone." "So did I." He slipped it into her palm. "Wear it when you forget who you are." She smiled through tears. "I think I remember now." But while they stood wrapped in quiet, someone else was watching. From the far side of the ballroom, Charles Montrose, still polished, still dangerous, and still carrying a grudge. He wasn't alone. Next to him, Simeon knew, a man with sharp cheekbones, European suit, eyes to calm. Charles leaned in and whispered, "That's her." The man nodded slowly. "I see. You know what to do." "Of course." Charles raised his glass toward the balcony. "Let's see how she handles this storm." Victory doesn't come when you stop being hated. It comes when hate can no longer touch you. But every light draws shadows, and Isabella was about to learn some darkness wears a suit. His name was Luca Villano, at least. That's what his card said. But cards lie, and smiles, even more. He introduced himself the next afternoon at a cafe near the Langford Foundation offices. Isabella was waiting for Ray their usual Tuesday to brief on the podcast aftermath. Instead, Luca sat down, uninvited, charming, predatory. "You're early," she said, guarded. He smiled like he'd known her forever. "I'm not Ray," he replied. "No kidding. I represent a group interested in your ascent." She narrowed her eyes. "I'm not for sale. I'm not buying." "Then what?" "Shaping." She stood, but he spoke before she could walk away. "You've been careful," he said, "but there are still cracks in the story." She froze. He continued, voice low. "The police report from St. Vincent's shelter, the one you thought was sealed. I've read it." Her stomach turned. He leaned in. "The overdose incident, the runaway, the fight with a social worker, all those little messy pieces." She gritted her teeth. "What do you want?" "I want you to know something," he said, standing now, towering over her without moving an inch. "The world loves a redemption arc, but it lives for the fall." Then he dropped a small white envelope on the table. No name, no stamp, just like the last one. "Compliments of Mr. Montrose," and walked away. Inside the envelope, a printed screenshot, a private message thread, years old, between Isabella and a desperate girl named Dina. Dina had asked for help, money, shelter, and escape from her abuser. Isabella never replied, not because she didn't care, because she didn't see it. She'd been in rehab, no phone, no access. But the screenshot didn't show that. It showed silence. And now it was bait. She burned the paper in the fireplace that night. Didn't tell William? Not yet. But she couldn't sleep. Not because of guilt, because of the lie. They were going to twist her into something she wasn't. Again. And this time, they weren't using tabloids. They were using shame. The next morning, she woke to a trending hashtag. Shella 30. She didn't know who started it. Didn't care. But Ray called. Breathless. Dina's cousin posted the message. Did she say I ignored her? No. But she didn't defend you either. Isabella paced the bedroom floor. William walked in mid-conversation. Took one look at her face. And knew. What did they do now? She handed him the phone. He read. Slowly. Carefully. Then asked, "Is it true?" She met his eyes. "I never saw the message, I swear. That's all I need to know." She exhaled. But he wasn't done. "Let's go on record, together." "What?" "We hold a press conference. You speak first, then I do." "Won't that make it worse?" "No," he said. "It'll make it real." The room was small, not glamorous. A non-profit media center downtown. No makeup team, no PR spin. Just one camera, one microphone, one truth. Isabella stepped up first. Her hands didn't shake. Her voice didn't crack. She said, "I failed someone, not because I didn't care, because I was lost, too. And now people want to make that my legacy." Pause. "But if you've never been drowning, don't lecture me about how to swim." Then she stepped aside, and William took her hand, faced the press, and simply said, "I trust her more than I trust most CEOs, and I am a CEO." Then he walked off stage. With her, back at the car, she turned to him. You know this won't end. He nodded. I don't need it to end. I just need it not to break you. She looked away. It already did. Then back at him. But somehow I'm still standing. Across the city, Charles slammed his laptop shut. Luca watched from the corner, arms folded. I told you she wouldn't crack, Luca said. Charles hissed, then break him instead. Luca raised an eyebrow. You want me to destroy William? Charles turned slowly. I want him to feel what it's like to lose everything for a woman who never should have mattered. They tried to silence her with secrets, shame her with past mistakes. But they forgot people who've been broken don't fear shattering. They rebuild, louder. And this time, she's not alone. It began with an audit, routine, filed by the sec, buried in legalese, hardly worth a headline. Until Luca leaked the findings. Not to tabloids. To the Ledger, a high-profile investigative outlet. The kind that didn't chase gossip, it built firestorms. Isabella was the one who saw it first. The article was clean, clinical. Unusual discrepancies found in Lancaster Holdings' philanthropic disbursements. Just one paragraph mentioned William, but it was enough. A flag donation, a missing receipt trail, a quote from an anonymous source. It's not fraud, but it's hiding something. When she showed him, he didn't speak, just stared at the screen like it was an old enemy return. She whispered, "Is it true?" He didn't look at her, just said, "Not exactly." "Then tell me what is." Silence. She stepped closer. "William." His jaw flexed. Then he walked to the window, hands clenched. "There was a fund," he said finally, 10 years ago, before the IPO. A fund for what? For someone. He turned, eyes darker than she'd ever seen. For a woman I failed. Her name was Cameron Holt, an assistant, smart, kind, to trusting. William had hired her fresh out of college. She'd worked long nights, until one night, she didn't show up. They found her 2 days later, alive, barely. She tried to take her own life. No warning. But whispers swirled: workplace pressure, isolation, emotional burnout, and William blamed himself. So he paid for her recovery, privately, silently, set up a fund in her name, one no board member could trace. Not illegal, but invisible, to protect her. "Why didn't you just tell them?" Isabella asked. "Because people like Charles would have twisted it, turned her into scandal. And now they'll twist it anyway." She stepped forward, touched his arm. "Then let me help." That night, Isabella made the call. Ray arranged a private interview with the Ledger. This time, it wasn't about her. It was about him. And when the piece dropped the next day, it changed the narrative instantly. He hit her to save her. It detailed the Cameron story. Her permission included. She even wrote a quote. "William saved my life. He didn't fail me. He fought for me when no one else did." And just like that, the whispers faded. The firestorm fizzled. And Luca vanished. For now. But in the quiet aftermath, William sat on the balcony alone, staring at the skyline. Isabella found him an hour later, slid beside him. "You're quiet," she said. "I almost lost everything," he murmured. "You didn't." "I lied to everyone. Not to me." He looked at her. "I didn't want to need you." "I know, but I do." She took his hand. "Good." He blinked. "Good." She smiled. "Because I need you too." They didn't kiss. Not yet, but they sat in the dark for a long time. Two survivors. Two stories, twisting toward the same ending. Or maybe a new beginning. Across the city, Charles Montrose watched the new headlines. Scowled. He tossed his phone onto the desk, then looked up as Olivia stepped into the room. "She survived again," he muttered. Olivia smirked. "She always does." The world tried to write them as opposites, rich and poor, broken and whole. But truth doesn't follow outlines. Sometimes it carves its own path, and love finds room in the wreckage. The ring was simple. A platinum band, no diamonds. Understated, quiet, like the way he loved her. William kept it in the side drawer of his study. Not in a safe. Not hidden. Just waiting. That morning, he almost brought it out. But something stopped him. Something he couldn't name. Isabella was in the garden, barefoot again. The sky was overcast, like it couldn't decide whether to cry. She was humming an old lullaby, one she didn't remember learning, but her hands moved with muscle memory, weaving lavender stems into a braid. Then came the voice. Behind her, a man's voice, deep, uneven. Isabella? She turned slowly. The braid dropped from her fingers. He stood by the garden gate, thin, unshaven, eyes sunken. But the moment their eyes met, the years vanished. She whispered, "Known." She hadn't spoken that name in over a decade. Not since she was 15. Not since she'd been forced to leave. He was younger then, a blur of curls and bruised knees. The boy she used to protect. Her son. No, not her son. Her brother. But it never felt like that. He was born when their mother was already gone, not dead. Just gone inside herself. Isabella fed him, bathed him, sang him to sleep. And when the state came, she tried to keep him. They wouldn't let her. Said she was too young, unfit. So they split them. She ran. He disappeared. And now he stood before her. A grown man, with the same eyes. Tired, hurt, hollow. "Where have you been?" she breathed. "Foster care," he said. "Then juvie, then the streets." She stepped forward. "I looked for you." I looked harder. Her lip trembled. "I didn't know where they sent you. They didn't want you to." Silence. Then, "Why now?" she asked. He pulled a folded newspaper from his pocket. Her photo. "The gala. You're famous," he said. "Hard to miss." Her voice broke. "You're alive." Barely. And then softer. "Until I saw you again." William found them on the bench an hour later. She looked up, eyes red, but not panicked, not afraid, just undone. She whispered, "This is Noah." He didn't ask, just sat beside them, offered his hand. Noah didn't take it, just nodded, distrust buried deep. That night, Isabella didn't sleep. She sat in Noah's guest room, watched him breathe. He didn't ask for anything, didn't cry, didn't smile, just existed. And something inside her shattered all over again, because she thought the past had stopped bleeding. She was wrong. The next day, Noah vanished. Left a note, "Don't try to fix me. I just needed to see if you were real. You are." She searched anyway. Shelters, clinics, no sign. But something lingered in her, a wound, not from losing him, from knowing she'd already lost him once and somehow, again. That evening, she found William in the piano room. The ring sat on the edge of the keys. He looked up, didn't smile, just waited. "I'm not whole," she said. "I know. I'm angry. At the world. At myself. I know. I might never stop searching for him." "You shouldn't." She stepped closer. "I'm scared of saying yes." He stood. "Then don't say yes." She blinked. He took her hand. "Just don't say goodbye." Tears spilled. She kissed him. Long, steady, full of all the words she didn't have, and whispered, "I won't." Some ghosts return not to haunt, but to ask if you've moved on without them. And love waits. Not for perfection, but for the choice to stay. The day was clear. Skylight glass. Sunlight poured through the cathedral windows as guests arrived one by one, draped in satin, silk, and secrets. There were no invitations, no press releases, just whispers. Because when William Lancaster chose to marry, the world didn't wait for confirmation. It just showed up. Inside the stone chapel, white flowers hung like frozen breath. A piano waited. So did he. At the altar. No tie, no nerves, just stillness. Like every moment before had led him here. To this, to her. But Isabella was late. Not fashionably, not nervously. Late, like someone unsure if they should come at all. She stood outside, fingers trembling over the doorknob of a side entrance. Noah had come home the night before. Said nothing, just stood in the doorway, eyes clearer, jaw firmer, and handed her a folded note. Not from him, from Charles. It read, "If you marry him, the tape goes public. Your mother, the overdose, the police file, everything. No signature, just a phone number, and a warning. He will lose everything." She hadn't told William. Not yet. Didn't want to see his face when he realized her past could still burn his future. She turned to leave, but someone was already there. Ray, holding a phone. I intercepted it, Ray said, breathless. The leak was set for 11 a.m. Isabella checked her watch. 10 to 42. Then we have 18 minutes, she whispered. Ray nodded. Say the word. I'll stop it. But Isabella didn't speak, because something inside her had shifted. A reckoning. She stepped into the chapel. Guests turned. Phones lifted. Flashes sparked. But she didn't blink, didn't flinch. She walked down the aisle like a woman walking into a battlefield, and stopped at the altar. Faced William, took both his hands. I need to say something, she said. His brow furrowed. She turned to the room, to everyone here, to everyone watching. Ray was already live streaming, because she knew. Isabella wasn't walking away. She was stepping in. There's a tape, Isabella said, voice even, from years ago. It shows the worst day of my life, and someone plans to use it to ruin his. Gasps rippled. William stayed still. She looked at him now. This is the part where I walk away to protect you, to save your name, your empire. She took a breath. But I'm tired of walking. He reached for her hand. You don't have to. She turned back to the crowd. I won't be ashamed anymore. I was a child. I was hurt. I survived. She looked back at him. And you, William, you never asked me to be perfect. You just asked me to stay. Tears streamed down his face now. She smiled through hers. So I will. And turned to the priest. Let's begin. The ceremony was short, honest, no rehearsed vows, just truths, small ones, big ones, and one final one whispered at the end. I don't know how to be a wife, she said softly. You already are, he replied, and kissed her. The tape leaked, right on time, but it didn't matter, because it was too late. The world had already seen the real story, and they chose to believe her, not because she was flawless, but because she was finally free. Charles disappeared from public view. Luca left the country. And Olivia? She sent flowers. No, just lavender. A year later, Isabella opened a shelter of her own. She named it after her mother. Not to forgive her, not yet, but to remember the parts of her that once loved. Noah got clean. Ellie went back to school. And William? He played the piano more often now. Never alone. Always with her beside him. Feet bare. Eyes open. Heart unguarded. It didn't end with a wedding. It began with a choice. Not to be saved, but to be seen. And in that chapel, beneath stone and sunlight, they weren't just married. They were finally home.